I borrowed your card for gas, my mom said. By morning the balance was zero. $5,200 gone. Dad chuckled. Consider it your donation. I didn't argue. I just did one quiet action. What she saw made her scream so loud the whole neighborhood heard her. I had exactly $5,200 in my account when I went to bed. I remember that number like it's carved into the back of my brain. That was all I had left to get through the month after rent, groceries, and bills. I had plans for that money. Mostly survival, a little bit of breathing room. Nothing extravagant. Just enough to not panic every time I swiped my card. So when my mom sent that casual text at 10:43 p.m., I borrowed your card for gas. Hope you don't mind. I didn't freak out. She's done that before. 20 here, 30 there. It was annoying, sure, but I let it slide. She raced me. I owed her something, right? That's what I kept telling myself. But when I woke up the next morning and opened my banking app, I wasn't expecting to feel my stomach cave in on itself. Available balance. $0. I blinked. Closed the app. Reopened it. Thought maybe the app had glitched or maybe I was looking at the wrong account. I wasn't. The transaction history told me everything. Target $412.93. Best Buy $978.45. Shell Gas $63.22. Home Goods $229.77. Massage Louis $144. Apple.com $1,299. And it went on. I scrolled and scrolled and my chest got tighter with every swipe. It was like watching someone set fire to your bank account in slow motion. I called my mom. She picked up like nothing was wrong. Said she and Dad had gone out for a little shopping. Said they needed a few things and figured I wouldn't miss the money. She actually laughed and said they'd make it up to me eventually. Then I heard my dad in the background say something like, "Consider it your donation to the family fund." He laughed. I didn't. I just said, okay. Then I hung up. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't even call them back. I just sat on the edge of my bed for a long time staring at the wall, wondering what kind of people do this to their own daughter. But I already knew the answer. 6 months ago I had gifted them a car, a silver 2018 Nissan Rogue. It was supposed to be a surprise for their anniversary. I bought it in full, used my bonus from my last job and told them it was theirs, no strings. What I didn't mention, and what they obviously forgot, was that the title was still in my name. I never transferred it. I don't even know why. Something told me to keep that one thread connected. That night after the sun went down, I grabbed the spare key I kept in my desk drawer, called up my friend Jenna and told her I needed a ride. We didn't talk much on the drive, just headed straight to my parents' house. The car was right there in the driveway looking untouched. I unlocked it, slid into the seat and drove away like a ghost in the dark. No noise. No headlights. Just rolled off their property like it had never belonged to them. Back at my place I parked it 3 blocks away off a side street under a tree. Then I waited. At 7:12 a.m. the first text came. From my mom. Then the missed calls started. Then my dad. Then my mom again. By 7:45 I got a call from our neighbor Mrs. Lindell, who's half-deaf and never wakes up before noon. She asked me if I knew what was going on, said she'd heard my mother screaming like someone got murdered. And no, I didn't answer any of their texts. They still didn't know where the car was. They couldn't reach me. They didn't know I had every legal right to take it. But the best part came at exactly 10:16 a.m., when someone buzzed the front door of my apartment. I looked through the peephole. There they were. Standing outside in the cold, pissed off and fresh out of a taxi. And that's when the real fun started. I saw them coming from my window before they ever hit the buzzer. A yellow cab pulled up right to the curb, my mom in the back seat already mid-rant. My dad sitting next to her with that stiff jaw he gets when he's trying to look calm but wants to throw something. The moment they stepped out, I knew they hadn't slept. She kept looking around like she expected the car to be parked nearby, like maybe this was all just some kind of joke. My dad pulled his phone out and started tapping furiously, probably still trying to track the car or figure out if I'd taken it to get serviced or something. Then they buzzed my apartment. I let it ring twice before I pressed the door button. I didn't say anything, didn't ask who it was. I just let them in. My apartment's on the 2nd floor. I could hear them stomping up the stairs like they were going to kick the door off its hinges. I opened it before they knocked. Neither of them said hi. My mom brushed right past me like she lived there. My dad followed, quieter than usual. They both stood in the middle of my living room, looking completely out of place like strangers who walked into the wrong house. The silence only lasted 10 seconds. Then it started. "Where's the car? Why are you doing this? Are you out of your mind? We needed that car. You have no right." I just stood there and let them unload everything. I didn't say a word until they finally slowed down. And even then I only asked one thing. What did you spend my $5,200 on? That shut them up. For a second, my mom looked like she didn't even remember the number. My dad made this weak attempt at deflecting, said something like, we picked up a few essentials. Stuff for the house. Essentials. Like the $1,300 iPad. The 75-inch TV. The massage chair pad. The $299 air purifier for a room they don't even go in. The leather recliner. I read the transactions. I even called the card company to verify the locations. They spent everything on junk they didn't need and never asked if they could. I told them straight up, I took the car because I wasn't going to let two people who just cleared out my bank account drive around in something I paid for. My mom lost it. Said the car was a gift. I said so was the $5,200 apparently. The energy shifted real fast. My dad started accusing me of being dramatic, saying I was trying to punish them and embarrass them. My mom said I was selfish, that family helps each other, and that I wouldn't even be here without her. They were yelling louder now. My neighbor from across the hall opened his door and peeked out. I saw his shadow move. He didn't say anything, just listened. I didn't yell back. I didn't match their energy. I just walked to the front door, opened it wide, and stood there. They didn't move. I told them they needed to leave. That we weren't going to scream at each other in my apartment. They hesitated like they thought I'd back down. I didn't. My mom eventually grabbed her purse and stormed out. My dad followed her, but not before saying, this isn't over. I didn't respond. I shut the door behind them. For the first time in months I felt clear. Like something heavy had finally been pulled off my chest. That clarity lasted a solid 2 hours. Then I got a text from my brother Colin. He lives 20 minutes away and never gets involved in anything unless it's already halfway on fire. His message said, Mom and Dad just showed up at my place in a cab. They're flipping out. Want me to come over? I didn't answer right away. Because I already knew what was coming. They'd told their version. I had a feeling Colin was about to hear mine. And after that, the last bit of control they thought they had over this situation? Gone. Colin doesn't get involved unless it's serious. He's the kind of person who lets things slide even when he shouldn't, because he'd rather keep the peace than start a fight. That's how it's always been between us. I'd speak up and he'd smooth things over. Especially when it came to our parents. So when he knocked on my door that afternoon, I was already bracing myself. I thought he'd come in with some guilt trip speech, try to talk me into returning the car, patching things up, keeping the family together. He didn't. He stepped inside, sat down on the edge of the couch and looked at me. Just said, tell me everything. From the beginning. So I did. I walked him through it all. The text from Mom about borrowing my card. Waking up to an empty bank account. The long list of charges. All of it on garbage. Things no one needs when they're supposedly struggling. Designer gadgets, fancy lamps, a Bluetooth-enabled cat-shaped foot massager. He didn't interrupt once. Just listened while I showed him the transaction history and pointed out how none of it was for food or rent or emergencies. He was shopping, plain and simple stupid shopping. When I told him about calling them and how they brushed it off like it was nothing, how Dad laughed and said it was a donation, Colin's whole expression changed. He just sat there, eyes fixed on my phone screen. Then he asked quietly, they didn't even ask you first? I said no. They didn't ask. They didn't warn me. They didn't apologize. They just took. He rubbed his face with both hands and stood up, pacing, which he never does. Then he just said, all right. Give me 20 minutes. I didn't ask where he was going. I already knew. 25 minutes later I got a text. At their place. We're talking. Another half hour passed and then another text. They're pissed. But I laid it out. I told them they were wrong. Completely. I told them if they want to keep any kind of relationship with either of us, they better fix this. That hit me. Either of us. He'd never drawn a line like that before. Turns out they'd already been to his house before coming to mine. They showed up, told him I stole the car, said I'd gone unhinged. Made it sound like I was unstable and trying to ruin their lives for no reason. Left out every single thing about draining my account. Colin said once he heard my side, with receipts, there wasn't a single doubt in his mind. He told them straight up. You took her money, you lied about it, and now you want sympathy because she took back the car that she legally owns? You're lucky that's all she took. He said my dad told him to mind his own business. My mom cried and said I'd humiliated them. Colin told them to grow up. That I wasn't a piggy bank. That if they couldn't take responsibility, they didn't deserve anything from me. Then he left. And while he was dealing with that circus, I was doing what they clearly never expected me to do. I was moving on. I cleaned out the car, took fresh pictures, listed it online for $12,000. Within 2 hours I had multiple offers. One guy offered $10,000 on the spot if I could meet him that night. I held out. By the next day, someone came by with a mechanic, checked everything, handed me $11,000 in cash and drove away. I watched that car disappear down the street without a single second of hesitation. It was never theirs to begin with. The guy who bought the car pulled up in a beat-up truck with rusted doors but cash in hand. He brought a mechanic, did a quick inspection, checked the VIN, asked a few basic questions, and didn't flinch when I told him $11,000 firm. He handed over the envelope, I signed the bill of sale, and just like that, it was gone. I watched the rogue roll away from the curb and disappear into traffic. No hesitation. No second thoughts. That should have been the end. I took a long walk, grabbed a coffee, and sat in the park thinking, maybe this is it. Maybe the chapter is closed. But if I've learned anything from my parents, it's that they never end anything quietly. Later that night, Colin called. He didn't even say hello. He just said, "You're not gonna believe this. They tried reporting the car stolen. Not to the police, thankfully they weren't that bold, but to the dealership they assumed I bought it from. Apparently they called and claimed their daughter had stolen the car they paid for, and that they were considering legal action. The dealership asked for the VIN, which my dad had saved in a photo from the day I gave them the car. The guy at the dealership paused, then told them the car had a flagged manufacturer recall, something with the airbag system and electrical wiring, and it had been eligible for a buyback. That caught their attention real fast. The dealership guy explained that under the recall, the original registered owner, me, would have been offered a $13,500 refund if the car was returned directly to the manufacturer within the recall period. I had never opened the letters. I remembered seeing something official-looking come in the mail months ago, but I tossed it aside thinking it was just one of those boring safety notices. Now here's where it gets funny. My parents were furious, not because of the recall but because they realized they missed out on that $13,500. They thought they could guilt me into giving the car back, maybe even sell it themselves if they played their cards right. But now it was gone, sold, and I got less than what I could have, which was a loss for me, but a complete slap in the face for them. Colin said my dad ranted for an hour straight about how ungrateful I was, that I should have told them about the recall, that I should have waited. My mom cried, not because of what they did to me but because they felt cheated out of money they thought they deserved. Not once did they mention the $5,200 they took from my account. Not once did they say they were sorry. But I didn't care. I had $11,000 in cash. My bills were covered for the next few months, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't owe anyone anything. Or so I thought. 3 days later, I was cooking dinner when someone rang my doorbell. Not the buzzer, the actual doorbell, which meant someone was already standing right outside. I opened the door and felt my stomach twist. It was them again. My mom, my dad, and someone standing behind them. I had to squint for a second. Then it hit me. Uncle Rick. I hadn't seen him since I was 17. He and my dad hadn't spoken in almost 10 years, after some massive fallout that ended with Rick getting cut off completely. All I ever heard growing up was that he'd stolen from our grandma, though something about that story always felt off, and yet here he was. He gave me a quick nod and stepped forward, right past my parents like they didn't matter. "I heard what they did," he said. "Figured you could use someone in your corner." I looked at my parents. For the first time they didn't look angry. They looked cornered. Apparently, Colin had called Rick and told him everything. Word for word. The money. Her. The manipulation. And Rick, who had once been disowned for speaking out, decided this time he wasn't going to stay quiet. My parents started talking over each other, trying to explain, twisting details, saying things like misunderstanding and temporary borrowing. Rick turned around, cut them off mid-sentence and said, "You emptied her account, and now you're mad she didn't let you keep her car? You two don't need a daughter. You need a mirror." I swear the silence in the hallway was louder than any scream. They left without another word. And that's when things started to shift. After the moment in the hallway when Uncle Rick stared them down and told them the truth they'd never admit out loud, I didn't hear a single word from either of them. Not a text. Not a call. No surprise visits. No vague Facebook posts that I knew were about me. Just silence. It lasted longer than I expected. 5 full days passed and I was starting to think maybe that was it. Maybe I'd actually scared them off for good. Or maybe they doubled down and decided I didn't exist. Then Colin texted me. "They've been quiet. But they asked me today if you're okay." I didn't answer. Not because I was being petty, but because I genuinely didn't know what to say. After everything, they suddenly wanted to know how I was. Colin followed up an hour later. "I think they're finally starting to understand. Rick really hit something in them." Apparently, after they left my apartment, Rick didn't just disappear. He followed them back to their house, walked in behind them and made himself at home. They didn't stop him. He sat down at their kitchen table uninvited and told them point blank that they were the kind of parents who would drive their own child into debt and still feel entitled to more. He told them they'd become the villains in their own story and didn't even realize it. And they listened. Not politely. Not quietly. But they didn't throw him out. Rick told me later that my mom tried to deflect it first. Said she just didn't think it was a big deal, that she thought I had more saved. But when Rick asked why she didn't even check before draining my card, she went quiet. My dad didn't say much during the conversation. Just sat there. Apparently, he stared at his phone for a long time before standing up and walking out of the room. Rick didn't stop talking. He told her how I was the one who actually gave in this family. How I'd bought the car, covered dinners, sent them birthday gifts even when I could barely afford my rent. He asked her, and I'll never forget this. When's the last time you gave her something without expecting something back? That was what finally cracked her. Rick said she broke down crying. Not performative, attention-seeking tears like I was used to, but silent, heavy crying. The kind that catches people off guard because it looks like the truth bleeding through the denial. She didn't say much else. Rick left them like that. 3 more days went by. I started to feel the weight of everything that had happened settling in. I wasn't angry anymore, just drained. Like I'd climbed out of a collapsing house and was finally standing in the sunlight, but I didn't have the energy to move. Then Colin showed up. No warning. Just knocked once and waited outside with a small manila envelope in his hand. I opened the door and let him in without a word. He sat down, slid the envelope across the table. I know it's not everything, but it's close. Inside was a check for $5,000. From his personal account. I stared at it for a long time. It didn't feel like revenge. It didn't even feel like closure. It felt like the final puzzle piece of a picture I never wanted to see clearly. I asked why he was giving it to me. He said, because I'm embarrassed for them. And honestly for me, I should have spoken up sooner. I watched them take advantage of you over and over and kept telling myself it wasn't my business. But it was. It always was. I asked if they knew he was doing this. They didn't ask me to, but they're going to know I did. And I hope it makes them feel every bit of shame they should have felt the second they touched your card. He paused. They want to apologize. I told them that's not up to me. That's up to you. I didn't say anything. Just nodded. Later that night I got a single message from my mom. Not long. Just a few lines. I don't expect you to forgive us. But I wanted you to know I'm sorry. I don't know who we became. But I know I don't like them either. And then, thank you for not becoming like us. It wasn't perfect. It didn't undo anything. But it was the first message from her that didn't try to spin the story. I read it once. Then I deleted it. I didn't need it. I already had everything I needed. I used to think closure came from conversations. Big, emotional, messy ones where people cry, admit they were wrong and suddenly become better. But that's not how it happened for me. My closure didn't come from an apology. It didn't come from seeing my mom cry or my dad go silent for once. It didn't come from a check or some dramatic confrontation. It came from the space I created once I stopped explaining myself. I deposited the $5,000 from Colin 2 days after he handed it to me. I didn't call him, didn't text him, didn't say thanks right away. Not because I wasn't grateful, but because I needed time to just sit in the silence. I paid off my credit card, cleared my rent 3 months ahead, bought groceries without doing math in my head. For the first time in a long time I walked through a store without flinching at every price tag. I started sleeping through the night again. Colin texted me a few times that week. He never brought up our parents. Just casual stuff. A meme, a link to an old show we used to watch, a video of a dog riding a skateboard. I think he was checking on me without checking on me. Then on a quiet Saturday morning my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Thought maybe it was a delivery. I looked through the peephole and I froze. It was my mom. Alone. No makeup. No dramatic posture. No keys in her hand like she was ready to come in and take over the conversation. Just standing there with a paper envelope and a face I hadn't seen since I was a kid. Before the manipulation, before the guilt, before all the excuses. I opened the door but didn't say a word. She didn't ask to come in. Didn't force a hug. She held the envelope out and said quietly, I know it doesn't fix anything. That was it. She didn't wait for a response. Just turned and walked away down the hall. Inside the envelope was $200 in cash and a note written in shaky handwriting. This is the first time I've ever tried to give you something without expecting something back. I sold my jewelry. Just a few pieces. I know it's nothing. But it's mine. Not from your dad. Not from Colin. Just me. I sat on the floor and held that note for a long time. Not crying. Not angry. So, that money didn't matter. It could have been $5 or a single dollar bill. But for the first time in my life, my mother had done something that didn't come with strings or guilt or a lecture. She didn't ask for forgiveness. Didn't even ask to talk. It didn't undo the $5,200. Or the years of emotional sabotage. Or the phone call where she laughed while telling me they'd spent everything I had. But it told me one thing: she understood. Or at least she was starting to. That night I called Colin. Told him what happened. He was quiet for a moment, then said, "She hasn't spoken to Dad since last week." "Not really. She's been sleeping on the couch. I think she's embarrassed. I don't think she knows how to come back from it." And I told him the truth. I don't want her to come back. I want her to move forward. He understood. That was the last time we talked about it. Now, when I think about my parents, I don't feel that knot in my stomach anymore. I don't flinch when my phone buzzes. I don't lie awake trying to figure out how to make them proud or prove that I'm worth respecting. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done. And I think that's what real healing looks like. Not a big moment. Not some dramatic final scene. Just finally reaching the point where you're no longer waiting for someone else to make you feel whole. I'm not holding my breath for another apology. I'm not waiting for them to change. They can if they want to. But I'm not standing in the doorway anymore. I closed it. And this time it wasn't out of spite or pain. It was out of peace. The kind you build yourself, once you stop giving everyone else the blueprint. The update. It had been 2 weeks since my mom left that envelope at my door. 2 weeks of complete quiet. No texts. No calls. No drama. I'd gotten used to the silence. It was nice, actually. Peaceful. My apartment finally felt like a place I lived in. Not a war zone waiting to erupt. I started waking up early again. I was eating better. Sleeping better. I even signed up for a gym membership. Nothing crazy, just a few small things I'd put off for years. Then, completely out of the blue, Colin called. "Hey," he said. "Are you sitting down?" I thought something was wrong. Then he said, "Dad wants to talk to you. Like, actually talk. And I think he's serious." I almost laughed. I asked if this was a joke. "No," Colin said. "He's been quiet for days. Last night he told me he's been thinking about how he's handled everything. He said he feels sick about it. He didn't ask me to pass along a message. He said if you want, he'll come to you, no pressure." I didn't answer right away. I didn't know what to say. Colin didn't push. He just said, "He's not the same this week. He's been quieter. Stays in the garage a lot. Mom's still on the couch. They're not fighting, but they're not pretending either. It's weird." I told him I needed time to think. The next day I got a letter. Not a text. Not an email. A real letter. In my dad's handwriting. No envelope. Just folded paper left at my door. Inside was a single paragraph. No fluff. No excuses. Just this. "I was wrong. About the money. About the car. About how I've treated you. I thought I was still the parent in this relationship, but you've been the adult for a long time now. I don't expect anything from you. But I'd like the chance to learn something from you if you ever decide you're open to that." That was it. I don't know yet if I'll call him. I'm not in a rush. But for the first time, my dad didn't try to defend himself. He didn't use humor to hide behind. He just said the one thing he'd never said to anyone in this family. He was wrong. That, on its own, felt like something I never thought I'd live to see. And maybe, just maybe, this isn't the end of the story after all.